Okay, so once again, hi everyone. We're PAW's peer advisors for writing. My name's Min, and my co-host today is Phoebe. Today we're going to present about the thesis and languages for sort of different rhetorical strategies, right? So, okay, let's get started right away. So just a brief introduction of us, like who are we? Basically, we are trained to provide you with academic writing advice. So we can help with your writing skills, APA citations, and we sort of act as a fresh set of eyes on your paper. You can make appointments with us to discuss any writing-based assignments. So anything that involves writing, uh, you can definitely book a session with us, and we'll try to help you as much as we can, right? Um, so the what we're gonna do today is there's basically two main sections. The first one is the thesis statement section. So we will give you formula for both general and specific types of thesis statements for three rhetorical strategies: compare and contrast, cause and effect, argumentative. We will also do some practice examples with it. Okay. And for the languages section, we will offer you some common phrases and vocabularies used for three rhetorical strategies, and maybe some practice example if we have the time as well. And definitely there will be a Q&A at the end of the session, so you will definitely have some time to ask about maybe a little bit about your assignment or some questions that you have in mind. Okay, so with that, let's get started. Wait, okay, Phoebe.
Okay. So for the first part, we're gonna talk about thesis statement. I think by now you guys have most of the AC1 students. I think most of you guys have started writing your cause and effect essay, if I'm not wrong. And so right now, we have a little question. So for you right now, so what is thesis statement, right? And what is its role in the essay? Usually, like where is it located in your essay also? Can anyone answer that? You can like type in the chat or just speak up. We have only like 15 people here. So feel free to speak up. So usually this is statement. Why is it to you? Why is it role?
Mm. Any ideas at all? So yeah,
Yeah,
we
first
see some in the
paragraph,
chat.
introduction. At the very end of the introductory paragraph, right? Okay, that's true.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Um, so that's the location of it, right? So what do you think it is? Like, what is it? What does it do?
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Why do we need the thesis statement?
Yeah. So we're looking for some answers. Anyone?
Yeah, just speak up.
Speak up or type in the chat,
Mm.
whichever you're comfortable with. Okay.
Mm.
Okay. So Julian offer
So it
one perspective
states what
states
you planned on talking about. That's true.
that's true. Yeah, that's one way to look at it. Okay,
Mm.
shows the objective and links the topic sentences.
Mm.
That's yeah, that's another way to look at it. But um, what do you mean by topic sentences? So topic sentences of each body paragraph. Is that what you mean? Siluni, is that what you mean? We like the thesis statement links the topic sentences of each paragraph. Yeah,
Mm.
that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, quite a few answers here. So I think we can review the answer now. They pretty much hit on the point. Yeah.
Yeah. I think most of you guys got it right. So basically, the thesis statement, as you guys might have been aware of, usually it's going to be like one or two sentences that are usually placed at the very end of your introductory paragraph. And usually, the way that usually we look at it, I will look at it as it is like a mini outline that you would set out to provide the readers, to provide your audience with all your central arguments and basically just the composition of the essay. So once you dive into reading one paper, you want to know what to expect from the paper, right? What are the main arguments? What is going to be included in the paper? What we are going to discuss about. So basically, it is a statement. It would act as like an ultimate guideline for like the readers to know what to expect about the paper. And usually within those one or two sentences of the thesis statement, you want to have your major ideas. They should be logically organized. Um, and also they should be able to demonstrate, to display the overall structure of your body paragraph. So which means that if, for example, if in your thesis statement you have like three main ideas, A, B, C, then maybe in the body paragraph, you're gonna have like the corresponding order. So that from your thesis statement, people could expect what are you gonna talk about and in which order is it gonna be placed in your body paragraph. And also, um, of course, it sounds like we have a lot of things to fit in a thesis statement, but you want to be as concise with your writing of thesis statement as possible because you want to have for them to have like an understanding, right? A basic understanding uh, of your paper's like composition. So you don't want to like overcomplicate it at the very start. Just give them expectation of what you're gonna write in your paper. Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty much about thesis statement.
Yeah. So now we're jumping straight to the formulas. Um, okay. So the first type that we're going to go through is compare and contrast. So can anyone tell me what's the difference between comparing and contrasting?
I don't know.
Or you think that's or you think they're similar? Based on uh, your own knowledge, what is the difference between comparing and contrasting, or your understanding of each?
Yeah.
I think compare is more of seeing what's the same between two subjects, and
Mm,
contrasting is more focusing on the differences.
mm.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what we think also. So you compare when comparing, you focus on the similarities, and when you contrast, you would shift your focus on the differences. So that's what should be reflected in your thesis statement as well, right? So for contrasting, um, so let's talk about contrasting for a bit. So normally there are two types of thesis statement: the general type and the specific type, right? So in the general type, you basically just state that despite the maybe something like despite the similarities between subject A and subject B, or in this case X and Y, subject X and subject Y, they still have some differences, right? But when you're discussing it specifically, you would say subject X and subject Y are distinguishable or are different in terms of point A, point B, and point C. So you can see that when it comes to the specific type, you would typically list out the points that they're different from each other. Okay,
Mm.
Phoebe?
Yeah, and also like although that we are like providing you with a formula right here, but as you guys might have known, there are a lot of ways to write it. So maybe for the compare part, as we have said, we're gonna focus more on the similarities. So in the general, like in the general thesis statement that you're gonna have, you don't have to like list out all of the similarities that you're gonna talk about, right? Just basically saying something like subject X and Y, they might seem different, but they still share some similarities. And what kind of similarities they are, you don't have to actually list them out. You can leave it for like your body paragraph later on. But if you want to have a more specific one, a more specific like thesis statement, you should say something like maybe subject X and Y, they are the same on the grounds of A and B, and A and B would be the similarities that you're gonna discuss. So you actually would list them out. So that's
Mm,
basically like the difference between having a really general and specific thesis statement. I think mostly for your AC1 class, because usually the paper itself is not gonna be too long, right? You're gonna have like really brief arguments set out, brief ideas set out. You usually would go with the specific thesis statement more. That if my memory serves me right, that's what we used to do more
yeah,
in BC1.
yeah, that's right. So with that, we're going to move to some practice. Okay. So it's your turn now. So we would like you to make one thesis statement using the specific form for either the compare or the contrast type. So the topic for you to compare or contrast would be Twitter and Facebook, right? So try to think of the points that they're different or they're similar to each other and compose one thesis statement or either type and then maybe say it out loud or send it in the chat. Okay,
Right.
so if you want me to show the formula again, just tell me. Um, but the topic for this section would be about Twitter and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we'll
Okay.
give you guys 1 or 2 minutes. Just think of the thesis statement. So let me just switch back to the here. So yeah, at this stage, maybe try to think of how Twitter and Facebook are similar or how they're
Mm.
kind of different to each other, right? And discuss from there. And form your thesis statement from that. So Phoebe, um, what might be the similars between Twitter and Facebook? What do you think?
I think the most obvious similarity between them would be that it's a kind of like social media platform in which everyone would have like I mean it's like it's a forum for everyone to keep in touch with one another.
Mm,
Hmm. So usually, because personally for me, like Twitter and Facebook would be a form for me to actually keep in touch and then stay in like connection with all of the people in my circle.
mm-hmm,
So that would be one thing that I think they share similarity with. Like
mm,
even though that they have pretty, I think the like most of the interactions offer on both platforms they are pretty different.
mm.
But in terms of similarities, that would
Yeah,
be one of the similarity that I
yeah,
would think of first.
yeah. That's right. Um, so anyone following the compare route, like Phoebe just said, or or are you taking the opposite route where you're contrasting between the two?
Mm,
Okay, we have one in the chat. Okay, from Julian. Turn Facebook's closed system. Okay, we have quite a few. Great job, guys. Okay, let's read through them. Turn Facebook's closed ecosystem allow for people to be surrounded with like-minded ideas, which causes people to become harder to accept different views. Okay,
mm.
so Julian, would you mind telling us, are you comparing or are you contrasting?
Uh, Comparing.
You're comparing. So you think that both of these platform will cause people to be less likely to accept different views, right?
Yes.
Okay, yep, that's great then. Let's move on to Evan. Contrasting. Okay, Twitter and Facebook are distinguishable in terms of user demographic and user interaction. Yeah, that's right. So basically, that's the formula we're giving you here. Great. So last one from Brapti. Even though Twitter and Facebook are popular among people of very different age groups, respectively, they're both a great way to share your ideas, okay, and thoughts with the world and connect with other people. Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. So, yep, that those are some things that you can put into your thesis statement, and that's the thing that you're going to discuss in your body paragraphs as well. Great. Let's move on to our next rhetorical strategy, which is cause and effects. And I think for most AC1 students, you're on this assignment right now, right? So we
Mhm.
hope that this will be helpful in looking back at your thesis. Okay, so the first one would be multiple causes and one effect. Like last time, the general thing is that due to several causes, there is this problem, why, right? So you don't specify the causes, but in the specific type, you would say problem Y is caused by basically cost A, cost B, and cost C. You would list out the cost in the specific type, right? So how about the one cost multiple effects, Phoebe?
Yeah, so beside having like the multiple causes and one effects, usually would have another part, another type of the cause and effect essay in which you have one cause, but then you would talk about multiple effects. Uh, so just as we have for a general thesis statement, you don't have to like list out all of the effects, right? So maybe something like cause X has affected many aspects of problem Y. So you give the readers kind of like the expectation that you're gonna discuss a lot about like the multiple effects that it have, but then you don't have to clarify on that. Like in your thesis statement, you're gonna talk about it later on. But for the specific one, you're gonna like list them out. So cos X has resulted in the effects A, B, and C of the problem Y. So you're gonna like be specific about what kind of effects you're gonna talk about. So they're gonna like have the idea of maybe 3 or 4 effects that you're gonna discuss in your like body paragraph already
Hmm.
from your thesis statement.
Yep.
Mm.
So with that, we're going to move on to like last time, some practice, okay? So this time we also would like you to do the specific type for either the cause or the effect essay. And your topic is quite broad. It's gonna be air pollution, right? So you can either focus on the causes of air pollution, or you can focus on the effects of air pollution. Okay, so I think this will get, when doing this kind of practice, you'll get to a chance to think back on the thesis statement that you put in your cause and effect essay. Yeah,
Mm.
it's sort of like reflecting a little bit. So yeah, please go ahead. The specific type for either the cause or the effect essay, and your topic is air pollution, right? Um, so please remember the specific type, and I think that um, I can't say for the majority, but I think many of your AC1 teachers would like you to write the specific type, just so
Yeah.
you know how to structure your paper later on. They
Mm.
would, I think they would expect you to write the specific type, but it's always, to be on the safe side, you can always ask your teacher which ones should you, which type should you use. Yeah. So the effects of air pollution, Phoebe, can you think of anything? I think that's a pretty common problem, right?
Okay, so for the effects of air pollution, I think maybe the most obvious one would be perhaps its impacts on human health condition. So right now you can see like there are a lot of people, they just have like respiratory problems due to
Mm.
like the pretty bad like deterioration of the air quality around them, especially in like major city, like those metropolitans. People usually face those issues.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm.
Um,
But the causes, there are a lot of causes also.
yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
there's
Let's one from
ooh,
property.
there has been
There.
increase in air pollution because of increasing urbanization, improper treatment of waste in landfills, and vehicular emission.
Mm.
Nice one.
So Brapti is focusing on the causes
Causes.
of air
Mm,
pollution, right? So there's been an increase in air pollution, and the three causes would be increasing urbanization, improper treatment of waste in landfills, and vehicular emission. Okay, great job, Brapti. So anyone else? Maybe this time, you would talk about the effects of air pollution, maybe.
mhm. Okay. Cost. The one is causes also. I think causes is it's easier to talk
Yeah,
about.
it's a little bit easier then. Yeah.
Stronger regulations. Mm. I
Mm-hmm.
think you have all of the main ideas down, but
Yeah.
Julian, if possible, perhaps we have like compose it into like a full length thesis statement.
Mm.
Perhaps it's gonna be better that way.
I think I think
It's
I
a good
think
starting point.
it's a good I think it's a good topic because we're only giving you the topic of air pollution, and Julian's focusing on like not the increased air pollution but like in the reducing air
Mm,
pollution, right? So that's another take at it, right? As you can see, so the three causes that Julian gave was stronger regulations, public education, and green initiatives. Yeah, I think that works just fine as well. Um,
mm.
yeah. So, Phoebe, do you want to give one example for the one cause multiple effects for this?
One cause multiple effects.
Yeah.
I give the multiple causes. I only think of causes.
No, you get to do the part that everyone refuses to do. Um, how about one cause multiple effects?
Okay, one cause multiple effects. Um, so the deterioration of air quality in many major city have led to like the negative impacts on person like on humans health condition. And let's see what else is there. Can you help me out a bit? Anything else you think about?
I mean, you can talk about not only maybe health condition, but maybe focus on different type of health conditions, right?
Right. If,
Maybe,
if we
yeah,
really list them out, then
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
about respiratory
or
problems,
skin
cancer.
cancer, lung cancer. Yeah, I think that's one of the
Cancer.
effects as well.
Mm.
And here, in the chat, I see that Nang put in
Mm.
one cause multiple effect
Glacier
statement.
falling
Yeah.
clouds increase the death of animals.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So air pollution, you can observe glacier falling, droughts, and increase the death of animals. Okay. So yeah, we're just practice writing thesis statements. So um, you would so just for you to imagine how you would frame your thesis statement, uh, that's you're gonna write later on in your paper. Okay. So, yeah, thank you, Nang. So, with that, we're going to move to the last uh, type of thesis statement, which is the argumentative.
Yay.
So, this is pretty straightforward. For the general type, you would basically say, in order to solve, for example, problem Y, this thing X should be done, but you don't specifically say the reasons that you think why this should be done, right? Whereas in the specific type, you would say because of reason A, reason B, and reason C, this thing X is desirable, right? So you would be a little bit more specific with your reasoning. And the end goal of an argumentative essay is basically to try for a change, to advocate for something,
Mm.
right? So with that in mind, I think you're going to write your argumentative essay right after the cause and effect. So I
Yeah.
think this might come in handy in the upcoming weeks. Yeah.
Mm.
So let's jump straight into the practice, shall we? So just make one thesis statement using the specific form, and your topic is electric motorbikes. So
So
the
perhaps
question,
uh,
yeah, go on, Phoebe, go on.
so perhaps like either you think so maybe your argument could be built based on whether you believe that electric motorbikes they should be utilized more or it
Mm,
should not be used at all. So
yeah,
you either have like those two direct arguments like that and you try to build up that with evidences with like your with like your evidences. Mm,
that's right.
mm.
So maybe some reason why people should choose
Yeah.
electric motorbikes, or some reasons why that's not really practical, maybe. Yeah. So we'll give you guys 1 or 2 minutes just
Yeah.
to think of your arguments, maybe.
Okay. Mm. This one might be a bit it could be a bit ambiguous to
Yeah.
most of you guys because you guys have not really touched on this argumentative type of essay yet. But
So
later
we'll,
on, it's gonna be really handy for you all to get it
yeah.
down.
So maybe we'll give you some arguments so that you can formulate your own thesis statement.
Mhm.
How about the the positive side of electric motorbikes. So, Phoebe, why do you think people should choose electric motorbikes?
So the first thing is that electric motorbikes themselves, they are friendly to environment, so environmentally friendly.
Mm,
And also they are convenient in terms that they are really light
mm,
in like
in
weight.
way. Yeah,
Compared to other types of motorbike. Electric
that's right.
motorbike usually they come in a form that light in weight.
Mm,
And also usually it's gonna be cheaper also.
mm,
So about the budget itself, it's gonna save you guys more money using
yeah. Okay.
electric motorbikes.
Hmm. So that's Phoebe's opinion on electric motorbikes, as long as maybe later on she writes a paper and it's supported by arguments, right? But maybe maybe for myself, I don't think electric motorbikes are that cheap, maybe. So compared to other things, creating uh, an electric motorbike might be a little bit more costly. So the price of it would be higher than other motorbikes. And maybe with electric motorbikes, one downside of it is that you can't really travel far, right? So for example, you can travel 100 kilometers with a tank full of fuel, but you can only travel maybe 50 kilometers with a fully charged battery of an electric motorbike. And maybe the last thing might be um, electric motorbikes. You can when you're in the middle of the road, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult to find someone to fix
True.
uh,
Mm,
your electric motorbike rather than your normal motorbike.
mm.
So yeah, with the reasons we just gave, maybe you can think of the type of the thesis statements maybe for either side of the argument. So any ideas at all? Please feel free to share with us your ideas. Anyone? Phoebe, so would you mind like forming your own thesis statement for the points that you just mentioned earlier?
Okay. So uh okay, like the full length one, right?
Yeah.
The use of electric motorbikes should be encouraged among people for its um for its for its positive impacts on the environment, its convenience for its budget saving benefits, and the convenience it offered to the users. The
Okay.
convenience offered to
Yeah.
users.
That's right. So
Mm.
that's maybe one way that Phoebe would approach with her thesis statement for this type of paper. Okay, and I think it's something you guys can keep in mind also when you guys tackle uh, this type of paper later on in your AC1 class. Yeah. So with that, we're going to move on to the language section where we offer you sort of some commonly used phrases
Mm.
and maybe some vocabularies for you to use later on in your paper. Okay.
Mm.
So the first one is compare and contrast. Um, so is this me or you, Phoebe? Me, right?
Okay. Mm. So the language that we're talking about is that there are a lot of different types of phrases, vocabularies, and then language that you could really use in like different rhetorical strategies. The thing is that we want to focus on that because usually you want to keep your essay really coherent and cohesive in terms of the language you use so that the message that you try to deliver is going to reach the audience better when like the cohesion of your overall essay is improved, especially with the help with the language. So perhaps for the compare and contrast type of essay, for the compare you want to, as we say, we want to focus on the similarities, right? So some word like maybe both subject A and B, they are similar in terms of something, 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 or A is something, something, then B because, or A and B both share the common ground in terms of. So use those words that really focus on the similarities part. Uh, so you want it to be cohesive. So you want to use all the vocabularies that are related to the similarities only. So in that way, it's gonna be better for people to actually understand, um to actually able to perceive your argument, your ideas in the essay. And moving on to the
So
contrast part.
yeah, so you also.
Oh,
Um,
okay. And also, like in terms of the sorry, in terms of the contrast part, um, now we want to like focus on the difference, right? So something like subject A differs from B in that, and then you would go on to talk about like the differences, like those signaling words would give people like the idea that, oh, what are you trying to like to focus on, right? um or another structure, sentence structure you could use, that why A is something something, B is something something. A really common one that people usually use to show the contrast and difference between the two. Or the other one that you would have seen, might have seen a lot, like on the one hand A is like that, but on the other hand B is like that. Um,
mm,
Using
yeah,
those languages would improve the overall cohesion of your essay, or the contrast
that's
and compare.
that's right. So that's for the compare and contrast. So I think the next one would be the cause and effect. So with this, there's just like a bunch of vocabularies that you can use for your compare and for your cause and effect essay. So just maybe when you're doing your cause and effect essay right now, look back at your paper to see maybe if you have some of these language. Maybe the ones that you write might not be what we include here, but yeah, just a reminder to go back and see if everything's in line with the cause or the effect that you're trying to say. So for the cause, the most common words may be because, due to, or thanks to. So because of this happened, right? So due to, the same goes for due to, thanks to, if it's a positive cause, right? Or the easier way is problem Y is caused by A, B, or C, right? So problem Y is caused by maybe the fact one factor, right? And another word, another phrase that kind of similar to is caused by is the phrase results from, right? So problem Y results from factor A. And the last thing, maybe that's a little bit more sort of way that you can use this language is the problem Y could be attributed to another cause, right? Problem Y could be attributed to cause A, cause B, or cause C. That depends on you. So we just want to remind you to maybe look at, when if you're discussing the cause in your cause and effect essay, you want to make sure that you have these type of languages so that people know that you're writing about the cause, right? So on the other hand, the on the effect side, so words like accordingly, hence, consequently, to show that, oh, there's an effect coming. So accordingly, consequently is when you try to say that something's, you put at the beginning of the sentence to say that something's happened because of something, right? So the effect of something. And on the cause side, you have the phrase results from, and on the effect side, you would have the phrase results in, right? So remember the difference, because people tend to get mixed up between the two. So results in will tell the effect, and results from will tell the cause. So cause X results in effect A, effect B, effect C. And yeah, and one simple way of doing the effect is that just say the effect of cos X is blah blah blah. You be straightforward with your effect, right? And the last one that we're saying here is, as a result or as a consequence of cos X, there's this problem, there's this effect, right? So those are some of the languages that we just put in here for your reference. And we maybe you have other ways to frame it. So let me just ask you here, maybe what are some other ways that you can describe the cause?
Mm,
What are some other ways you can describe the cause? Anyone?
mm. We believe there are a lot more. Like right here, we only
Yeah.
provide you with like three or four. So perhaps you could,
Mm-hmm.
in your cause and effect essay that you're writing right now, perhaps there are different kind of languages you have been using.
Yeah. So maybe you can tell us either about the phrase, or maybe you can tell us the whole sentence, how you use the phrase, right?
Mm,
Either for the cause or either for the cause or the effect. It depends on you. So maybe just give us um, your own kind of language, or maybe a sentence if possible. Anyone?
mm,
No. Phoebe. So if it were you, how would you like? What are other types of phrases that you would use in your cause and effect essay?
mm. Uh, Perhaps like for the cars part, usually the one I use the most is the one that I provide here already. That it could be
Mm,
attributed to like several causes, and then I would
mm,
list them out. That's the way usually I would
mm.
use it. You want me to think of another one, right?
Yeah, maybe
Okay.
something that's not on there.
Okay, let's see. Mm, okay. So, oh, usually I maybe perhaps when we have like effect problem why could be explained with or could be reasoned with, then I
Mm.
would follow with
Yeah,
with like the causes.
that's right. That's right.
I like the
Yeah.
word reason. Could be
O-
reasoned with, and then go on explain it.
Mm. So yeah, that's right, Phoebe. So maybe just one simple way, like the effect, you would just basically say at the forefront that this is the cause of this, right?
Mm,
So be really straightforward, like cause A is, maybe A is the cause of, is the original source of the problem of Y, maybe something like that,
mm.
right? So with that, we're going. Oh, we have someone in the chat. Okay,
Julian.
Julian, we Julian. Okay, due to the younger generations living rural areas across Japan, farmers are finding themselves working longer with no stable labor to replace them. Yeah, that's right. So
Mm,
that's one way you can frame. You can use the cost, right? Due to, you want, Julian here wants to focus on the cost, and the cost here would be the younger generations leaving rural areas across Japan, right? So really great, Julian. Thank you. So yeah, we're going to move on to the last one, which is argumentative, the language for argumentative essay. So here we are going to divide them into three categories, right? The first one is you're agreeing with something, right? So words that you can use is you are, someone argue that, and obviously these arguments have to be on the same side of your arguments, right? So maybe author X argues, believes, claim, state that something, and these statements should be in line with your own arguments, right? Or one phrase that I usually use is that it can be agreed that blah blah blah, and then because of blah blah blah, right? So one way you can show that you're agreeing with the topic here is that, say, maybe it can be agreed that, sort of like, so that you can avoid being too personal with your opinion, right? And maybe something like, it is likely that something something something, right? It also shows that you're agreeing. And the last one is that author X is correct that blah 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 blah, just to show that you're on the same side. Like I said, you're on the same side with the author here,
mm.
right? Hmm. So like the opposite of agreeing, it's disagreeing, right? So Phoebe, you want to take this?
Okay. So of course when you do argumentative essay, it's not like you don't always agree on stuff, like you have your own stances, you have your own point of view. So perhaps when you discuss like largely expensively about some issue, you're gonna like refer to a lot of articles, a lot of statement from other authors, and there are times when you just don't agree with them. They just you guys are really just not on the same page in certain issue, and in those points you want to use language to really show that you are on the opposite side. You don't really approve this. You don't really like agree with that. So some word that people would use is that like I this could be refuted with uh or you show um your like your opposition towards their statement by saying that uh, this could be opposed by uh, the opposite can be argued that blah 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 because blah blah blah. Uh, or it is unlikely that um, or the author themselves overlooks the fact that and you point out like what kind of thing that they have been missing on. The thing is that even for when you disagree in academic writing, you want to be as bias free as possible. Like you don't want to be too aggressive with your disagreement. You want to show that you disagree that, but you disagree for some good reasons. So you want to
Yeah.
explain on it, elaborate on that. And sometimes the disagreement that you include in your paper can sometimes act as some kind of like the counter argument to really strengthen your argument even more.
Yeah, that's right. So, like I mentioned earlier at this section, there are three types
Mhm,
of languages. So, agreeing, disagreeing, and the last one would be something that combines both of these aspects, right? So, when you are agreeing and disagreeing at the same time, right? So maybe you can say author X is both right and wrong that. So you might want, so maybe you agree with one aspect that the author is offering, but maybe you have some opposite opinion on another aspect, right? So the author is right and wrong in the sense that something, right? To show that you're agreeing and disagreeing at the same time. And maybe opinions on matter why could be mixed since, right? So it can be mixed because maybe some people agree, some people disagree with that, right? And so that it's the opinion on that it's mixed. And one really simple way you can do this is that you can use the phrase on the one hand and on the other hand, right? So maybe on the one hand, this can be true, maybe, but on the other hand, the like some arguments of it are just not on point, right? So these are the types that language you can put in when you want to agree and disagree at the same time, right? And one another way that's not mentioned here, um so maybe something like, although this point can be agreed to a certain extent, there are some loopholes to it, right? There are maybe some defects, deficiencies, or like defects to it, right? So that way you can both list out what's it's good for and what, like what's good of it and what's bad of it, right? So that's maybe things you can put into consideration when you write this type of paper. Mm. So we've done a lot of talking, right? And I think now it's time for you to ask us
mhm,
about what uh, maybe some things that you find a little bit difficult to understand or some things that you have in mind.
mhm.
So feel free to ask us. We still have like around 14 to 15 minutes
Yeah, yeah.
for the last for the Q&A. Yeah.
Mhm. The thing is that because most of the content that we have prepared, I think that so far you guys have only like touched on the cause and effect essay. So perhaps
Mm.
like the rest, it could be a bit ambiguous because actually with all of those talking, like it's pretty hard for you guys to like absorb all of them all at once. So once you really got into writing the paper, creating like your draft, your outline, then maybe those tips about thesis statement or about the languages that could be used, it could really be
Mhm.
handy and helpful in those
Yeah.
times. But then it's gonna take a like quite a bit more time for you guys to actually get used to it familiar yourself
Mm.
yourself with that. So mm,
But on the good side, because we're recording this
mm,
video, because we're recording this workshop, it will later be uploaded to our channel on YouTube. So when maybe you do your cause and effect, your argumentative essay, maybe you are pondering like, is your thesis statement in the right form? You can go back to our video on the channel to see um, sort of like if your thesis statement follows the formula or not, right? So you can definitely do that. Phoebe, would you mind like finding the link to our YouTube channel?
okay, please give me a few seconds.
Yeah, so maybe this the time for you to ask us some questions that you have in mind, perhaps. So yeah, just go ahead. Maybe some problems with your current assignment, maybe anything. If it's thesis statement related, it's good. But if it's not, then it's fine also. So anyone? Okay, let Phoebe just find.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm looking for it right now.
yeah. So we'll send you a link to sort of the attendance form later, and just a reminder that once this meeting is closed, we will just leave like a spare 5 minutes for you to complete the link, and yeah, maybe I'll send out the form at around uh 12:55, and then I'll close it at 5 minutes after the session ends. Okay, so we have a question from Shashir. I hope that I pronounced your name correctly. Um, how detailed should my thesis statement be? Phoebe, you want to tackle this?
Hmm. I think that as we have said, like because how detailed it is, maybe you're asking in terms of like the specific type thesis statement, right? So
Yeah.
usually the thesis statement, as we have said, because it's gonna be it's gonna act like a mini outline, like a kind of like a mini summary guideline for people who read your paper to actually know what are you gonna talk about, what are your central arguments you are having. So in that type, you want to basically list out all of your main arguments that you're gonna have, of your main ideas that you're gonna discuss in your paper. Mm. So perhaps maybe for the cause and effects essay, you are doing like one cause and multiple effects. You have like three effects. Then you want in your thesis statement, you want to like list all those three effects out. But just briefly, you don't have to like explain all of them in detail because that's what you're gonna do in your body paragraph, right?
That's
And
right.
it's gonna overlap if you're doing in your thesis statement. So you want to keep your thesis statement as concise, but then it should be able to state to like list out all of those three effects that you are gonna talk about.
Yeah. So maybe so just think of the thesis statement sort of like a heads up of the things that you're going to
Mm,
discuss. Like, and it may sound sort of like contradictory, but um, you should be specific, but you should be concise at the same time when you write your thesis statement. Right?
mm,
So you don't want basically to spoil everything in the thesis statement, but you just be really be specific, but in a general way. If you come to think about it, right?
mm,
So like we're showing here the specific types of problem, maybe cause X has resulted in A, B, and C. What we did was air pollution, right? So maybe air pollution has resulted in the increase in respiratory diseases, lung cancer, and something, right? And in your body paragraphs, you would discuss them in greater length.
mm.
Okay, so we have two. Okay, let me just stop sharing, and I'll I'll try to find the link to our YouTube channel so that you can uh, watch
Oh,
this later on. And
okay.
we
Can
also
you?
have other video.
Mhm.
We also have other videos as well.
Mm. In the meantime, I think we have another like questions about
Mhm.
from Tatiana. So how long might this statement for multiple effects should be? In lines, not sentences. How long it should be? How should we say about that? I think that the length is not usually even in like the rubric, they will not really determine how long it should be, right? Like how many lines it should like expand through. But then um let's see. I think maybe if it's gonna be like one sentence, then usually for it to be concise, maybe two lines,
Mm, 2 to 3 lines
two, three lines like that.
if you're doing double space maybe.
Uh,
So I mean, I think this is your for your own judgment. Maybe your introduction paragraph, it's like 6 lines long, and your thesis statement is already 3 lines long. Maybe that's a little bit
mhm,
disproportionate in a way. So maybe you don't want your thesis statement to take up maybe half the length of your introduction,
mm,
right? So like Phoebe said earlier, you might want to be concise with the things that you're mentioning in your thesis statement. So yeah, so with a type with like maybe with longer essays or with longer introductions, maybe that's something acceptable. You would
mm,
have a longer thesis statement, but maybe for something that's short, you should not really extend your thesis statement, yeah,
mm.
too much. Okay, so I sent in the chat the link to our YouTube channel. We also have the videos of previous workshops on choosing your choosing your topic, brainstorming and choosing your topic. So I think that might be helpful when it comes to your argumentative essay coming up. And we also have Q&As videos, and those Q&As can really be helpful because we discuss quite a variety of topics um, like APA citations, plagiarism, and maybe we also talk a little bit about paraphrasing tools in some of our videos. So that's one thing. So if you have the time, you can go onto our videos, and they all have like timestamps, so you don't have to watch the whole video from like 1 hour of video. You have other things to do. We know that. So maybe just find the questions that you find that you need, and yeah, watch that part. But we really appreciate if you go check it out. So for now, any other questions? So in just 1 more minute, I will send the link to the uh, attendance chart. Okay. Okay, so Shishira just asked us, is this a good thesis statement? Many factors contribute to Japan's population decrease. Difficulty in finding well-paid permanent jobs, strict work culture, social norms, expensive childcare, and increase in women's empowerment in Japan are some of the causes of Japan's declining birth rate. So what do you think, Phoebe?
I think that perhaps for the first sentence, when you give a heads up about manufacturers, there are manufacturers that contribute to perhaps actually those two can though these two sentences they could have been like merged together. You could say something like
Mm,
there are manufacturers which contribute to the Japan's population decrease, and then you list them out uh, like directly
yeah.
after that instead of like um dividing it up into two sentences. And also there are quite a lot of kind of like causes. I think this is for cause and effect essay, right?
Mm,
And there are quite a lot
yeah.
of causes that are listed out right here. So perhaps if we could phrase it like more concisely for it to not be for the same sentence itself not to be too lengthy,
Mm,
it's gonna be
yeah.
uh,
Yeah,
easier.
that's right.
Mm.
Because like just let me ask you this. You mentioned a lot of causes in your thesis statement. So that is the same number of causes that you're going to discuss in the body paragraphs as well, right? And I think that's a lot of personally I would say that you have here one, two, three, four, and five causes. Well, normally we would only focus on maybe three causes. Um, so so this might be a little bit more difficult for you later on if you want to jam all five causes into your paper. Yeah.
Mm, true.
But structure wise, that's one good way to approach a thesis
Mm.
statement. Yeah. But we're just a little bit concerned about the number of it, the number of causes of within it. Yeah. So yeah. So thank you, Shir, for giving us an example. Um, so we're going to we have 10 participants left. Okay, so we're going to send out a link to the attendance form, and it's a QR code, and we will open this until 11. Oh, we will open this until 1 5, like
Mm.
5 minutes after we close this meeting. Yeah, so please remember to fill in if you have to, but otherwise, yeah. So here, please check if it's accessible or not, because yeah, maybe can you check it to see if it's
Yeah, I'm
accessible?
checking
Yeah.
it right now. Yep. Yep. It's
Yeah.
accepted
Okay.
on my
Great.
side. Mm.
Okay, it works. Thanks, Julian. Great. Okay, so yeah, mm, we might have time for 1 or 2 more minutes while we wait for you guys to fill in the attendance form. But if you don't have any more questions, feel free to leave. Yeah, and obviously, if you have any um, concerns about your writing, feel free to book a session with us. We're there for your we're there to help you, and yeah.
Ah.
Oh, the form, it's not in the chat. The form is on the screen that I'm sharing. It's the QR code.
Oh, you can scan the QR code.
Yeah,
Or
you
do
can
you need
scan
a
the QR
form
code.
in the? If you need a link to
Uh,
the form, then we could send to you also.
so thank you, Julian. Thank you for coming. Thank you for all of your work, for contributing to this workshop. Okay, so can you stop recording?
Yes. Gotta stop recording now.